Beloved, today we are stepping into a divine revelation, a truth that can transform your life in ways you never imagined. We are talking about God's quantum leap, how to manifest your personal miracle now. I want you to understand something very clearly. God is not limited by time, space, or human reasoning. The same God who spoke the universe into existence is ready to speak your miracle into being today. Your breakthrough is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of faith aligned with divine principles. Too often we wait for our miracles to come in ways that seem logical to us. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect people. But God operates beyond the realm of natural limitations. A quantum leap is sudden, unexpected, and powerful, a leap that defies human calculation. And this is exactly how God works when He brings forth your miracle. The Bible tells us that faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains. That mustard seed faith, when sown with expectancy, releases supernatural power that transcends all obstacles. Beloved, when we speak of God's quantum leap, we are entering a realm that defies human logic and natural limitations. Many of us live life expecting progress to come slowly, step by step, as if time, effort, and circumstance are the ultimate determinants of our destiny. But the truth is that God operates beyond these constraints. He is not limited by natural laws, timelines, or human reasoning. A quantum leap is a sudden, supernatural shift from stagnation to breakthrough, from impossibility to immediate reality. It is a leap that bypasses the ordinary and steps directly into the extraordinary. Understanding this concept is crucial because it changes the way you approach your prayers, your faith, and your life. Too many people rely solely on their effort, planning, and timing, believing that miracles are a result of human endeavor. Yet God's quantum leap is not earned through toil alone. It is accessed through alignment with His will, obedience to His word, and unwavering faith. The moment you grasp that God can accelerate your life beyond natural limits, your perspective shifts. You begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You recognize divine favor in situations that appear impossible to the human eye. You understand that stagnation, delay, and repeated setbacks are not the final word, but merely the stage before God's sudden intervention. A quantum leap is sudden, yes, but it is also purposeful. It does not happen haphazardly. It is the result of a heart fully surrendered to God, a mind set on His promises, and a spirit ready to move in faith. When you understand God's quantum leap, you realize that miracles are not exceptions. They are the natural outcome of divine alignment. You begin to live in expectancy rather than frustration, in hope rather than despair, in boldness rather than hesitation. This understanding transforms your prayer life because you no longer pray with uncertainty or timidity. You pray with confidence, knowing that God's power can bring instant change. You learn to recognize the signs of divine acceleration, sudden doors opening, situations shifting in your favor, answers arriving when you least expect them but most need them. It also transforms your response to challenges. Instead of succumbing to fear or anxiety when circumstances seem overwhelming, you step forward in faith, knowing that God can leap over obstacles on your behalf. This understanding teaches patience with purpose. It is not passive waiting, it is active faith, prepared for the moment when God decides to move. You learn to partner with God, aligning your thoughts, words, and actions with His divine will, positioning yourself to receive the leap He has prepared. In essence, understanding God's quantum leap is learning to trust that the impossible is not only possible but imminent. It is realizing that God's power is greater than any circumstance, that His timing is perfect, and that His purposes cannot be thwarted by human limitation. It is the spiritual awareness that allows you to move from mere survival to divine acceleration, from incremental progress to exponential breakthrough, and from ordinary living to extraordinary manifestation, recognizing that each step of faith positions you closer to the miraculous that God has already planned. Faith is the key that unlocks God's supernatural power, and it is the primary catalyst for experiencing a quantum leap in your life. Without faith, the miraculous remains inaccessible. No matter how much you desire it or how diligently you pray, faith is not merely intellectual agreement or hopeful wishing. It is a deep, unwavering trust in God's word and His promises. It is the inner conviction that what God has spoken will come to pass, even if your current circumstances suggest otherwise. Many people limit their breakthroughs because they rely on what they can see, feel, or understand. They wait for favorable conditions, logical solutions, or human assistance, forgetting that faith operates in the unseen realm where God's power is most active. True faith goes beyond human reasoning. It transcends natural limitations and positions you to receive divine acceleration. When faith is activated, it becomes a force that can move mountains, shatter limitations, and open doors that have been closed for years. A quantum leap occurs when faith aligns perfectly with God's promises, creating a spiritual momentum that propels you into sudden breakthroughs. This momentum is not based on your effort, but on your unwavering trust in the one who controls all things. Speaking of faith, it is crucial to understand that it must be exercised daily. Faith grows as it is spoken, confessed, and acted upon. Your words, fueled by faith, become seed sown into the soil of heaven. Each declaration of God's promises, each confession of victory, releases spiritual power that activates your miracle. When you consistently speak in faith, you are not merely repeating words. You are participating in the supernatural process of bringing heaven's reality into your life. Faith also requires patience and perseverance. It is not weakened by delays or setbacks. Rather, it is strengthened when you hold on to God's promises despite circumstances. A small mustard seed of faith, when nurtured and exercised, can produce exponential results, creating a divine acceleration that defies natural explanation. Another aspect of faith is its ability to transform your mindset. When faith dominates your thinking, doubt, fear, and worry are displaced. You begin to see your challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities for God's power to manifest. This shift in perspective allows you to act boldly, take risks in alignment with God's will, and step into situations where the miraculous can occur. Faith is not passive, it is active and requires action in harmony with God's guidance. Obedience to His word, stepping out in boldness, and trusting Him in uncertainty are all expressions of faith in motion. Ultimately, faith is the bridge between your natural reality and God's supernatural intervention. It is the channel through which divine power flows, the instrument that unlocks your personal miracle, and the catalyst that propels you into a quantum leap that transforms your life. Beloved, the measure of your faith directly influences the magnitude of your breakthrough. And when exercised with consistency and expectation, faith can initiate sudden, powerful, and lasting change that surpasses all human understanding. Your words carry power, and when spoken in faith, they have the ability to release God's supernatural intervention in your life. Speaking your miracle is not about wishful thinking or empty repetition. It is about declaring the reality of God's promises over your circumstances with boldness and expectancy. Many believers underestimate the authority of their words, failing to recognize that God has entrusted them with the ability to shape their spiritual and natural realities. The Bible tells us that life and death are in the power of the tongue, and this principle is key to manifesting your personal miracle. When you speak in alignment with God's word, you are not merely expressing a desire. You are activating a spiritual law that moves heaven to respond to your declaration. Confession of God's promises is an essential practice in this process. By consistently declaring what God has said over your life, you are planting seeds in the spiritual realm that will produce harvest in the natural. Words spoken in faith carry creative power. They release the invisible forces of God to work on your behalf, shifting situations, opening doors, and dissolving obstacles that seem insurmountable. Speaking your miracle requires both boldness and consistency. Boldness comes from a deep understanding of God's character and His promises. You must speak as one who is fully convinced that what God has said will come to pass, even before you see evidence in the natural. Consistency ensures that your declarations are persistent, building spiritual momentum that cannot be easily stopped by doubt, fear, or delay. It is not enough to speak once and then retreat in uncertainty. Your words must be steadfast, reflecting unwavering faith and expectation. Another aspect of speaking your miracle is gratitude. Confessing God's goodness and thanking Him for what is already yours positions your heart in harmony with His will. Gratitude transforms your words from mere requests into declarations of victory, creating an atmosphere where miracles can flourish. The authority of your words is also amplified when coupled with action. Speaking your miracle should be accompanied by steps of obedience that align with God's guidance. Words without action are empty, but words reinforced by faith-driven actions become a powerful force for supernatural change. It is essential to understand that speaking your miracle is not a passive or magical exercise. It is an active partnership with God. When you declare His promises, you are collaborating with His Spirit to bring heaven's power into your reality. Finally, speaking your miracle requires a mindset that refuses to be influenced by negative circumstances. Even when challenges arise, your words should remain consistent with the truth of God's promises. By doing so, you create a spiritual environment where His power can manifest, shifting situations, opening doors, and bringing forth results that surpass human expectation. allowing you to experience the sudden, transformative breakthrough that defines God's quantum leap. Doubt, fear, and delay are the greatest enemies of your breakthrough, and they must be confronted if you desire to experience God's quantum leap. These forces work subtly, often disguising themselves as reason, caution, or practicality, yet they block the flow of divine acceleration in your life. Doubt whispers that God cannot, fear paralyzes your steps, and delay keeps you waiting for conditions that may never come. Many believers struggle with these barriers because they rely too heavily on what they see and understand, rather than trusting in the unseen power of God. To overcome doubt, you must anchor your mind and spirit in the promises of God. Doubt fades when faith is nourished with truth, and your heart begins to align with the certainty that God's word cannot fail. Remind yourself daily of His faithfulness in the past and the assurances He has given for your future. Fear, on the other hand, must be confronted with courage and trust. Fear arises from focusing on what could go wrong, imagining obstacles, and magnifying challenges. The antidote is to focus on God's presence and His power. As you meditate on His greatness, His protection, and His willingness to intervene on your behalf, fear loses its grip. Delay often comes when we wait for perfect timing, resources, or circumstances to align before we act in faith. But God's quantum leap does not wait for human approval or natural readiness. It responds to spiritual alignment, obedience, and persistent expectation. To overcome delay, you must act decisively, moving in faith even when conditions seem unfavorable, trusting that God's timing is already at work behind the scenes. Prayer is a powerful tool in combating doubt, fear, and delay. Through prayer, you release the supernatural into your situation, declaring God's sovereignty and asking for His intervention. Consistent, fervent prayer breaks spiritual resistance and positions you to receive divine acceleration. Speaking God's promises out loud reinforces this process, replacing hesitation with boldness, uncertainty with assurance, and stagnation with momentum. Another key to overcoming these obstacles is surrounding yourself with faith-filled influences. The encouragement, testimonies, and support of those who trust in God's power strengthen your own resolve, helping you maintain perspective and determination. Gratitude also plays a critical role. By thanking God for what He is doing even before you see it manifested, you create a spiritual atmosphere conducive to breakthrough. Finally, overcoming doubt, fear, and delay requires persistence. You must refuse to give in to negative thoughts, relentless worry, or discouragement. Each time you confront these forces with faith, you weaken their hold and increase your capacity to receive God's sudden, supernatural intervention. This persistence is what positions you to experience the quantum leap that transforms circumstances overnight, bypasses natural limitations, and brings about the miraculous results that God has prepared, showing you that nothing is too difficult for Him and that He is fully committed to releasing your breakthrough at the exact moment your faith, courage, and expectation converge. Aligning your life with God's timing is essential for experiencing His quantum leap. Because miracles do not occur in isolation, they unfold in perfect harmony with divine purpose and timing. Many believers struggle with impatience, wanting their breakthroughs according to their own schedules rather than waiting for God's appointed moment. Yet God's timing is always perfect, orchestrating events, circumstances, and opportunities in ways that maximize the impact of His supernatural intervention. Understanding this principle allows you to cooperate with God rather than resist His process. Alignment begins with surrender. You must be willing to release control over the timing sequence and method of your miracle, trusting that God knows exactly when and how to act. Surrender does not mean inactivity. It means actively positioning yourself in faith while allowing God to direct the outcome. It involves prayer, obedience, and expectancy, creating a spiritual environment where His power can flow unhindered. Another crucial aspect of alignment is sensitivity to God's guidance. The Spirit of God often directs us through impressions, confirmations, and circumstances that signal the right moment to act. Paying attention to these indicators ensures that your actions coincide with His timing, multiplying the effectiveness of every step you take. Alignment also requires patience with purpose. Waiting is not passive. It is active faith expressed in prayer, thanksgiving, and consistent declaration of God's promises. During this period, your trust is being refined, your faith is being strengthened, and your heart is being prepared to receive the fullness of the miracle God intends to release. Timing is intimately connected to positioning. Spiritual alignment positions you where God's favor, opportunities, and supernatural provision can intersect with your life. It may involve cultivating relationships, acquiring knowledge, or developing character qualities that make you ready to receive your breakthrough. Misalignment often results in missed opportunities, delayed miracles, or partial breakthroughs, whereas alignment ensures that God's power meets you at the exact moment of readiness. Additionally, alignment with God's timing enhances your confidence and peace. When you trust that God is orchestrating events on your behalf, anxiety, frustration, and fear lose their influence. You move forward boldly, knowing that every delay, detour, or challenge is part of a divine process that prepares you for maximum impact. Faith, expectation, and alignment work together. Your faith activates God's promises. Your expectation positions you to receive, and alignment ensures that your life is synchronized with His perfect schedule. This principle is evident in the lives of those who experience sudden, supernatural breakthroughs. They did not act prematurely or rely solely on human wisdom. They positioned themselves in obedience, prayed with expectancy, and waited for God's appointed time to act, allowing Him to orchestrate a quantum leap that bypassed natural limitations. When your life is aligned with God's timing, every action, declaration, and prayer becomes a conduit for His miraculous power. Obstacles are removed, resources are multiplied, and doors open in ways that defy human understanding, creating a divine acceleration that transforms ordinary circumstances into extraordinary outcomes, demonstrating the precision, wisdom, and perfection of God's timing. Living in expectancy is the final key to manifesting your personal miracle, because it positions your heart, mind, and spirit to receive the quantum leap that God desires to release. Expectancy is more than hope or wishful thinking. It is a confident anticipation that God is already at work, orchestrating circumstances, opening doors, and aligning resources for your breakthrough. Many believers pray faithfully, yet they remain passive, waiting for signs, confirmations, or perfect conditions. Living in expectancy requires an active faith that looks beyond what is visible, trusts in God's promises, and acts with boldness even before the evidence appears. Expectancy transforms your daily life. It changes the way you approach challenges, opportunities, and relationships, because you are no longer reactive but proactive in faith. You begin to see every circumstance as a potential channel for God's supernatural intervention. Even when delays, setbacks, or obstacles arise, expectancy keeps your focus on the certainty of God's power rather than the uncertainty of natural circumstances. This mindset creates a spiritual atmosphere where miracles can flourish. Because your faith is in motion, your words are aligned with God's promises, and your heart is positioned to receive. Living in expectancy also heightens your sensitivity to God's guidance. When you anticipate that He is already at work, you become more aware of the opportunities, confirmations, and directions He provides. This awareness allows you to act decisively, step boldly into new territories, and respond promptly when divine openings appear. Gratitude and praise are essential companions to expectancy. By expressing thankfulness for the miracle before it manifests, you are acknowledging God's sovereignty and demonstrating trust in His ability to deliver. This aligns your spirit with the reality of the breakthrough and reinforces the spiritual momentum necessary for a quantum leap. Another critical aspect is the declaration of promises. Speaking God's word with expectancy magnifies its power, turning your confessions into seeds that release supernatural acceleration. Each word spoken in faith and expectation contributes to the manifestation of your miracle, creating a chain reaction that draws heaven's power into your circumstances. Living in expectancy also involves resilience. You must refuse to allow doubt, discouragement, or negative reports to weaken your anticipation. Instead, you maintain focus on the truth of God's word, cultivating a steadfast belief that what He has promised is already in motion. This resilience strengthens your faith, sharpens your spiritual perception, and positions you to receive God's sudden intervention. Expectancy encourages action in alignment with God's will. When you anticipate God's movement, you are more likely to step out in obedience, seize opportunities, and partner with Him in the unfolding of your miracle. Your actions, fueled by confident anticipation, become catalysts for supernatural change. Ultimately, living in expectancy transforms your entire experience of faith. It moves you from passive longing to active engagement, from anxious waiting to confident anticipation, and from limited human understanding to awareness of God's limitless power. By maintaining an expectant heart, you open yourself to receive the sudden, life-altering, and supernatural breakthrough that defines God's quantum leap, experiencing firsthand the immediacy and power of His miraculous intervention in ways that surpass all natural explanation.